What's up everybody? On today's video, we're going to talk about why everybody in Bradenton is mad at a new construction site that's taking place west of the city. There's an area west of the city that, as of now, was just nothing more than a bunch of fields. There's no doubt that this site would make a perfect place for new homes, being close to the beaches, being close to the islands. It's a perfect place to put up a bunch of new houses, and the people in Bradenton somehow think that in the future they're going to have fields next to the beaches. It was just a matter of time before these empty fields became high-rise apartments and luxury homes. You hear me, Woody?
But Jose, my grandma used to see that field when she was little.
Well, yeah, your grandma also used to see Ford Escorts back in the day, but they're all recycled at the scrapyard at this point. There's a lot of people that think that they're going to prevent builders from destroying Florida. So we talked to a local politician, and this is what he had to say.
Well, Jose, this is what they voted for. When they voted for us, they voted for developers. We ran our entire campaign talking about new jobs in construction and new economical growth, new houses being built. We were pretty straightforward, Jose, about what we were going to do to Florida. Now, if they wanted rules and regulations and stuff like that, Jose, now they could have moved to California. Hey, they got all types of rules and regulations in California. That's why we're here in Florida, where we can destroy ecologically sensitive areas and not have to worry about the backlash. Jose, you know why a house costs $1 million in California? Because they won't let developers like me, politicians like me, put in subdivisions on their sand dunes. Now, we've tried, believe me, we have. They just won't let us do it. So here these folks knew what we were going to do, and now they're upset that we're doing exactly what we were hired to do, Jose. It makes no sense why these people are mad. You'd think they'd be happy for all these new houses, but the real reason these people are mad, Jose, is because they can't afford these new houses. Jose, do you know how rare it is for a politician not to lie to their people? We didn't lie to them. We told them straightforward where we were going to do.
But it's interesting how the same people, this type of thing in Florida, are the ones upset now that what they wanted is taking place. They didn't want environmental regulations. Look at California. I don't see California having their vineyards knocked down to build communities next to the beach because they have freaking regulations. And they're not going to allow developers to override environmental concerns. But hey, you live in Florida. We've lost over 50% of our coral reefs in the last 30 years. And it's happening right in front of them, and they still don't want to accept that these things are happening. They don't want to believe it. If the red tide continues the way it's been going lately, you're not even going to want to live that close to the beach because you're going to be able to smell the dead fish. Oh wait, there's no more dead fish at this point. We're at the point in Florida when we have red tide, we don't have massive fish kills because there's no fish left to kill.
Yeah, we're just having algae blooms now, Jose, and that algae ain't gonna last too long out there, I tell you what.
But wait, there's more. They're not just building new communities next to the water, they're also removing the mangrove buffer zone so that when a hurricane comes and gives them a storm surge, instead of the boats flying into the mangroves, the boats can fly right through your living room. You would think after seeing what Hurricane Ian did to Fort Myers Beach, they would learn a lesson about keeping a few of these mangroves around, which take hundreds of years to restore, but they haven't figured it out. They don't understand what they're doing. Oh yes, they do, but they have to cater to the people that put money in their pockets to lobby for them. It's not like they don't know what's going on. They just need the people to be stupid enough to let them do things that we all know they shouldn't be doing because the results are already there. We know what happens when you don't have mangroves along the coast. Take North Naples and Wiggins Pass. They had like a 9-foot storm surge but because of the mangroves, there was no destruction. As soon as you got to Bonita Springs, where the road turns on Bonita Beach Road, and there are no longer mangroves to protect the properties, we saw some of the most epic destruction that Florida has ever seen from the storm surge of Hurricane Ian. With this last hurricane that just hit the Florida Panhandle, we only had a few feet of storm surge, and we saw houses in Bradenton underwater. Some of these communities are even creating these giant pools that look like inland oceans, but when the storm surge comes in and floods these pools, they're literally gonna have sharks in their community pool. Usually the sharks just venture back out to sea and they don't stick around for the drop in the low tide or the storm surge, but when they think they're in the freaking sea because you've created an inland sea, they're gonna have to figure out how to get freaking sharks out of that pool after a hurricane. Or maybe they can just leave them in there because after all, they are trying to recreate an inland ocean out there. I'm gonna be honest with you, if I had enough money, I actually would buy one of those houses. I think the real problem is that a lot of people that are complaining live in some raggedy old trailer off of US 41, and they'll never be able to afford a new house because they spend all their money at the needle clinic across the street from that Wawa, and they'll never be able to afford $1 million house. So of course they're mad just because they can't afford it. But at the end of the day, this is exactly what Florida is getting into, and we've already seen the destruction of the environment all over Florida. So what is left to even protect at this point? My question as a person who's lived more than 25 years in Florida is, what's even left in Florida to protect at this point? All the fish are dead. The coral reefs are just about gone. All of the snails and shells and crap like that are mostly gone. The manatees are starting to freaking die. Every freaking empty lot in this city is a homeless camp, and they still got the nerve to say, well, it's worse than California. I'm like, no, it's not. I've been to Fresno. I've seen the worst of California. I've been to Skid Row in California. And let me tell you, it's looking about the same as California, except for in California, they at least have decent jobs to pay for all the expensive crap. Oh, I've never been there. Then why are you talking about it? Well, I heard it on Fox News. Well, you didn't freaking go there and see it for yourself. It's just about California without environmental regulations. You know, the one thing that keeps California's population from continuing to grow, being a large state just like Florida, that everybody wants to live in just like Florida, what they've done to keep their population in check is building regulations. It makes real estate very expensive in California. If California didn't have those building regulations, they'd have 80 million people by now. But a lot of people actually left the beautiful state of California and moved to complete crap holes of states because they were listening to PNN. I was listening to PNN. But Jose Fox News told me I had to leave before the people got me. Jose, there's poop on the street. Well, in Florida, we've taught our homeless people to poop in the woods. The influx of people leaving California has driven up real estate prices in places like northern Michigan, the last place on earth you'd expect prices to go up. But people are going to continue to move to Florida because they continue to believe that this is some great wonderland, but what they're not aware of is the ecological destruction that has already taken place over the last 20 or 30 years, and the ecological destruction that's waiting to happen if they continue to build at the rate they're building, and if they're building in environmentally sensitive areas that previously were protected in Florida. For the first time in my life, I saw a tree hugger that actually seemed like they had more sense than everybody else. You dumb hicks are actually going to knock down the mangroves? What the crap do you think is gonna happen when we have a freaking hurricane? Well, anyways, we know these fields are gonna get knocked down and they're gonna build new houses, and the people that are complaining can't afford them, and people from other states are gonna move into those houses, and one day we're gonna have a massive hurricane and those houses will all be 10 feet underwater with a boat in the living room.
We're doing everything we can to keep that stars right down up in Florida. We're doing everything we can to keep these rates down. I was just on golf course yesterday with some folks from insurance companies. They were gonna help me keep these rates down and whatnot. But Jose, we just had a boat goes to somebody's living room down there in Bradenton. So it's gonna go up a little bit. Not for the people on the beach, they're buddies with us. I'm talking about y'all out there gonna have to pay more insurance rates and stuff like that. Them folks don't deserve nothing like that. We go golfing with them all the time. It's gonna be y'all out there gonna pay for it.
So everybody in Florida is complaining about how their homeowners insurance and their car insurance is going up like crazy all throughout Florida. Florida now has some of the worst insurance rates in the entire country. Worse than places like New Jersey, worse than places like California. Florida now has the worst insurance rates in the entire country. However, while most of us in Florida are seeing our homeowners insurances and our vehicle insurance go up, you know who's not having their insurance rates go up? The people on Fort Myers Beach whose houses got washed away. Yeah, their insurances aren't going to go up. Yours is going to go up because they are rich and you are poor. In Florida, taxes the poor heavier than the rich. It actually costs more to insure a vehicle in Lehigh Acres, Florida than it does to insure a vehicle on Fort Myers Beach. I recently met a retired woman in Titusville, Florida who told me that she was going to have to sell her home that she bought to retire in and move somewhere else because her homeowner's insurance and her property taxes had gone up so much that she can no longer afford to stay in the home that she bought for retirement because her insurance rates and her property taxes keep increasing. All the while regular people are losing their homes because they just can't afford these ridiculous and unacceptably high insurance rates in Florida, the rich people along the coast, who are the reason why these insurance rates are going up, their rates aren't going up because they're rich people along the coast. And hey, we saw them all make a big deal out of Hurricane Ian, but they sure as crap didn't make a big deal out of this little hurricane that hit the Panhandle because they hit an impoverished, poor area, and those people simply do not matter. Unless it's voting time, then they definitely matter. I was listening to police radio during Hurricane Idalia, and the Manatee Sheriff's Office were asked for assistance with going to the Florida Panhandle in the Big Bend region, and the Manatee County, they were like, no, man, we ain't helping them, they ain't helping us. During Hurricane Ian, we saw all the big cities from Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and the Orlando area sent thousands of officers to keep Southwest Florida safe after Hurricane Ian. A few months later, the Lee County Sheriff's Officer, he goes on a rant about how these big cities are filled with crime and how he doesn't want Lee County to turn into Broward or Hialeah. So next time Southwest Florida gets hit by a massive hurricane and the Lee County Sheriff's like, oh, send us thousands of people, we need help. They're going to be like, no, buddy, we sent y'all thousands of people to help you last time. And now we have a lot of crime in our big cities. We can't help y'all. We got all these criminals here in Miami. We need these police officers here in Miami. We got all these criminals here. We can't help y'all. At the end of the day, it's the massive profits that these builders are making and the fact that everybody's corrupt and just looking out for themselves. Everybody, including the guy driving the bulldozer to plow down these mangroves, knows very well that getting rid of mangroves in Florida is a bad idea. But we also know that these politicians are in bed with these developers and they're going to do whatever they want to the point that they are eventually going to destroy Florida. And if I can make enough money while that's happening, you best believe I'm going to get me one of them. I like that pool idea down there. It seems like I could see myself there.
That's a horrible thing they're doing.
Shut your mouth. If you could afford to live up in that mug, you know you would. And I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear. I like going to the beach 3 to 4 times a week whenever I'm able to, and it's about a 45-minute drive from Lakewood Ranch. So if I could bring Lakewood Ranch to Bradenton and not have to drive through Bradenton and see that mug, I guarantee you I'm going to live up in there. Did this guy just go to a gas station just so he could hang out outside of it?